What is up, everyone? Dan here, and today I'm going to be doing my review for Arrow Season 5, Episode 8, entitled Invasion, or as it's also known as Arrow 100, because, of course, if you haven't been keeping up with the news, this is, of course, the 100th episode of Arrow. So, first off, I want to say congratulations to Arrow for getting that landmark, because not a lot of shows get to 100 episodes. I mean, Arrow, of course, it's gone on for 5 seasons now, and it's just awesome that a show like Arrow has still been able to go on through 100 episodes. Sure, there's been some downward spirals, particularly season 4, but there's also been some really good highs, and I will say for a certain, this episode was an absolute high, because this is, without doubt, one of the best episodes of Arrow ever. Probably my third favourite episode behind the Season 2 finale and the Season 1 finale. This episode was incredible. I was fanboying out so much because this is an episode for the fans. If you are a real big fan of Arrow like me, I think you will really appreciate this episode. Maybe not so much if you are somebody who enjoys The Flash more, or Legends of Tomorrow or Supergirl, because this episode wasn't really all about the crossover. This episode was more or less about celebrating 100 episodes of Arrow, giving us a load of, throwbacks and, Easter eggs to things that have happened in the last 100 episodes. It was just awesome. Great fan service in this episode, and yeah, definitely can't wait to talk about it. Of course, I will be spoiling what happens in this video, like all my other ones, so if you don't want to know what happens in the episode, and I really hope that you're not watching this if you haven't seen it, because I just don't want to spoil it for you, because this is just some utter amazing fan service. So yeah, haven't watched the episode or you're not caught up on Arrow, don't watch the video. So let's just get straight into it. So the main plot of this episode is it carries on straight after the events of the Flash crossover, pardon me, where of course the characters who originated from Team Arrow, Thea, Diggle, Oliver, Ray, and Sarah, they are taken aboard the Dominator's ship, and they are put in this dream state where they envision a life where Oliver never got on the Queen's Gambit and of course never became the Green Arrow. And the episode basically served to show all of the people that Oliver has lost throughout the last 100 episodes, bring them back to life and show him his dream world, his dream life that he wanted, or at least what maybe would have happened had he not gone on the Queen's Gambit and not become the Green Arrow. So he's living in the mansion like he did in season 1 and season 2. He's still with Laurel, and he's about to be engaged to her, which for me this 100% proves that he has to end up with Laurel at the end of the show. I am sorry, but if in his dream fantasy he marries Laurel, this clearly shows that he still loves her. So fingers crossed she comes back in season 5, because I still want Loriver. I want a proper Loriver. I want Black Canary and Green Arrow to be together. That is my wish. Please, Mark Guggenheim, give it to me. I hope this happens. But yeah, that's kind of going off topic. But yeah, they're basically engaged, and everything just seems perfect for him. But all of a sudden, he starts to get these flashes of the timeline that we know of, and he starts to get these more and more as the episodes go on, or when he begins to see something that relates to that other timeline. And it's not just him that's noticing this. The other people who are in this dream world as well, who've been abducted by the Dominators, also are having these dreams or these flashes as well, and they soon realize that they're all sharing the same hallucination, and that they need to escape. That's the main plot line for this episode. Of course, they do escape, and they get out of the Dominators' main spacecraft. I'm going to call it that because I don't know what the official name for it is. I'm just going to call it that. They escape from it with the help of the Wave Rider and some of the legends, and they realize that the Dominators were actually using them to gather intel on humans, because of course none of them who were captured had superpowers. They weren't metahumans, so they were using them to gain information. And then the episode ends with them realizing that the Dominators are planning to attack Earth imminently. And the episode just cuts there, and it says to be continued on Legends of Tomorrow. So definitely got me hyped for the Legends episode, most definitely. There was also the other side plot with in the real world where Felicity, T Marrow, and Cisco, minus Evelyn, who wasn't there, who I didn't really mind wasn't there because it kind of made sense. I mean, she's working with Prometheus, so I'm guessing she probably, took the day off or something, or maybe they might address it in the mid-season finale. It'd just be cool if they did, because it did definitely have me intrigued as to why she wasn't there, but then yet again, it didn't really bother me that much. It wasn't like something that like dragged down the episode at all. So they tried to find a location on where the rest of Team Arrow are, and they discovered that the technology required for this is in a woman who has been stealing, these technologically advanced, like, it's like this advanced tech that this woman has been using. I think she's given the nickname of Cyberwoman, and they enlist the help of Flash and Supergirl to take her out. They do so, and they put it in this Dominator technology, and they discover the location of where they're all being held, which is, of course, how the Legends are able to find out where they are and save them. So that was kind of cool how it related to that, because otherwise it would have been like, well, how the hell did the Legends team know where to take the Wave Rider? So it was nice that it answers that. So those were the two plot lines of this episode, the two main big ones. So I'm just going to talk about the real one, or the real world plot line, as I'm going to call it. I liked this plot line. It definitely was, of course, the least engaging out of the two, because obviously it didn't really have a whole lot to do with celebrating 100 episodes of Arrow. But it was still a good plotline, how it was able to relate to how the Wave Rider was able to find out where the rest of Team Arrow were, who were captured by the Dominators. The only real problem I had with the storyline, it's not even a problem really, it's more of a wish, and the only thing was, I just thought we would see a bit more of the Flash and Supergirl, because for me, this episode served better as the 100th episode of Arrow than it did a crossover, because Supergirl and Flash, they were there. They probably had about like 4 to 5 minutes of screen time, but they weren't the main focus of the episode. But then, to be honest, I never really went into this episode expecting the crossover to be more important than the 100th episode. I always thought it's going to be a fan-centric episode, so of course they are going to value the fact that it's 100 episodes over the crossover, which I felt was the right decision, because the dream sequence storyline was just amazing. It's very similar to the episode that Supergirl did in season 1. I'm not too sure about it because I never actually got around to watching that episode, but the other good example I can think of is Batman the Animated Series is Perchance to Dream, which is an episode that I actually did watch, and I really liked that episode of Batman the Animated Series. It's I watched that so many times as a kid, so yeah, it definitely brought back flashbacks of that when I was watching this episode, but it was just done so well. I've got to commend Greg Berlanti, who wrote this episode. He just did such an amazing job with the characters, and being able to add in all these little, fan-centric moments, Easter eggs to what has happened throughout the 100 episodes. It's just awesome. Just all the, just the fact you get to see all these people alive who, have died throughout Ollie's life. His father, his mother, Laurel in particular. I miss her the most by far on this episode. For me, really enforced why she needs to return, because it was just awesome to see her back. Mainly because she's back, in a relationship with Oliver, so all the Olicity shippers can go and drink some bleach for all I care, because Laura and Oliver are always meant to be together. But yeah, I really did like how they did that, and I've got to give the story props for all the emotional moments they had in it, because this was by far the most emotional episode of Arrow. I got the feels quite a few times watching this, particularly when he said goodbye basically saying goodbye to his mother and his father, because obviously in the real world, he never really got the chance to say goodbye to them. His father just flat out shot himself, and his mother, gave up her life to save Oliver's, at the hands of Slade Wilson, so he never got that opportunity to say goodbye to them. And that's what was so powerful about the scene, was the fact, in this dream world, it kind of was a gift, because it allowed him to properly say goodbye to people he never got the chance to say goodbye to. And that, when he has that conversation with his parents, it was just so upsetting. Didn't cry, because I am not that much of a crybaby, but it was definitely very emotional and almost got me. And then he has the conversation with Thea, who wants to stay in the dream world, and that was really good as well. I think Stephen Amell did an amazing job in this episode. By far his best, the best acting I've seen from Stephen Amell ever. He was just so good in the role. I mean, I remember when I criticized him in season 1 because I didn't feel like he was very emotional in some of his deliveries of speeches. This completely shows his transformation as an actor because he was so good in this episode. He was phenomenal. And the scene he had with Willa Holland, with Oliver trying to convince Thea to come back with him to the real world, that was just so good because you fully understood why Thea wanted to stay there, because she doesn't want to lose all these people all over again, and she sees it as this kind of gift, which you just agree with her on so many levels. And then she ends up realizing that this is nothing more than a dream, and then so she decides to come back with Oliver. And then there's a few other emotional moments as well, and before he leaves, he has this thing where he turns around before he goes into the portal that will take him out of the dream world. He sees these mirages of everybody close to him. You had Tommy there and you had Roy there. They weren't the actual actors, but I think it was like CGI models of them. But it was really cool to see that. That was very emotional as well. And then, of course, the most emotional moment by far, and the one that actually made me bring a tear to my eye, was Oliver's farewell to Laurel. For me, this was how they should have ended Laurel's character in Season 4, Episode 18. If Mark Guggenheim wanted to kill her from that episode, he should have had Oliver and Laurel's final moments be like this, like it was in this episode, because this was genuinely touching. And it got to me. I cried. I'm going to be honest. In fact, you can see my reaction now.
Ollie, what's happening?
I'm sorry. The person you fell in love with, it's not me. And I never deserved that love. And you always deserve better. I love you.
I love you. Don't go.
Because, this meant so much, to me, because I have always been a fan of Oliver and Laurel together. As a fan of the comics as well, obviously, the fact that Green Arrow and Black Canary together in the comics, this just really meant a lot to me. And Stephen Amell again was amazing in this scene, and Katie Cassidy as well was amazing. It just was a genuinely saddening moment because, when Laurel died in season 4, I didn't cry once because it just felt so forced, and it just felt like it was only there to, promote Olicity. But with this, it felt like a really nice, moment between the two where, it felt genuine, and that's why it was much more emotional for me. And yeah, it was definitely upsetting to see that, but hopefully she will return in the mid-season finale or the mid-season premiere, according to rumors, and I pretty much do believe them. I'm like 99% sure she's going to come back, so I hope she does. But I was really happy with that moment. And then also some of the Easter eggs they threw into the to the previous 100 episodes. Like, we got a reference to Tommy, like it was a brilliant meta reference where they were like, oh, why isn't Tommy at Oliver and Laurel's wedding? Like, Thea asks to Malcolm, and Malcolm says, oh, he works up in Chicago. He works as a doctor. It's pretty busy up there. And this is obviously a reference to the actor who plays Tommy Merlin, because he's currently starring in a show called Chicago Med. He plays one of the doctors in the show, and he's a series regular. And it's also the reason why he actually couldn't return for the 100th episode. So that was a really funny reference. We got one with Sarah when she walks past Oliver one time. She says, you're lucky I'm not an assassin or something, which is obviously a reference to the fact that in the real world she gets trained by the League of Assassins. And you have like that League of Assassins like theme as she says that. That was just really cool as well. And of course the opening of the episode, with Oliver running through, this like lush environments, it very reminiscent to the pilot, like the opening few seconds of the pilot for Arrow, obviously, when he's in Lian Yu. That was just really cool. There's plenty of other throwbacks as well. We also saw Deathstroke this episode. It wasn't Manu Bennett, which I was a bit disappointed by, but still I was happy that we got Deathstroke. And that final fight where they had Deathstroke, Malcolm Merlin, Damien Dark, and you also had some Mirakuru soldiers and Hive soldiers. That fight was amazing. I loved that fight scene. Probably one of the best fight scenes ever. It was just incredible. I mean, the part where Thea kills Malcolm and then fires the bow to Sarah, who catches it and then uses it to kill Damien Dark the same way he killed Laurel. It was just so awesome. Such an amazing fight sequence. I think James Bamford did an amazing job directing this episode. He's just so good with his action, and the use of slow-mo as well was just so cool. Like, it was just amazing. So overall, I'm going to give this episode of Arrow, you know what, screw it, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. I don't care, call me a fanboy in the comments all you want, but this episode for me was just so good. It hit every single level that I thought this episode was going to hit. It was just so emotional. It was just so good for the fan service it provided. I also enjoyed the present day stuff, crossing over with Flash and Supergirl. It was amazing. It like I said, it's probably my third favorite episode of Arrow ever, to be honest. I love this episode so much. And like I said again, congratulations to Arrow for getting to 100 episodes. And congratulations for the Arrow team, because this episode was truly amazing and definitely one of the series' best episodes ever. So a 10 out of 10. The only slight flaw you can even have with it really is that wish the crossover part of it was a bit more important. But then yet again, I wasn't really too bothered because I wanted this episode to focus more on the Arrow team anyway. So I was very happy with that. So that is it for my review. Of course, let me know in the comment section below what you thought of this episode. With that being said, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching the video, and I hope to see you again next time.